This man is the Sigma male. He doesn't live for the spotlight, nor does he seek validation from a world he sees as shallow and often misguided. He's not rebelling for the sake of rebellion. He simply doesn't belong to the herd. But when that independence intersects with a spiritual awakening, the result is something truly rare. A man who is not only detached from societal illusion, but also deeply connected to the eternal. This is not about adopting a religion or subscribing to dogma. It's about experiencing the divine from within through intuition, inner knowing, and a powerful sense of presence. Neurologically, meditation and solitude are proven to enhance brain plasticity, sharpen focus, and reduce cortisol levels. But beyond the biology, something metaphysical occurs too. The Sigma male begins to operate from a space of stillness and clarity that most never reach. He doesn't manipulate reality, he moves in harmony with it. While others are reactive, he's proactive. While others are driven by fear, he's anchored in purpose. In spiritual traditions from ancient Stoicism to Eastern mysticism, the enlightened man is always the one who seeks silence, not applause. The Sigma's detachment is not weakness, it's the foundation for his power. And once he begins tapping into higher awareness, what some might call God, source, or divine intelligence, he becomes a force that can't be swayed by trends or temptations. He sees through the matrix, not with conspiracy, but with clarity. He realizes that peace isn't found out there, it's created within, and once you find that, no one can take it from you. So this isn't a fantasy, this is a deep inner transformation rooted in fact in philosophy and in lived experience. Because when a Sigma male unlocks his spiritual powers, he doesn't just elevate himself, he shifts the entire atmosphere around him. Welcome to the realm of the unseen, welcome to the awakening. Number one, he detaches from ego, not confidence. Confidence says, I can. Ego says, I must. It's a subtle but powerful distinction that separates authentic self-belief from the fragile need to prove oneself. When a Sigma male begins to walk the spiritual path, this difference becomes even more pronounced. A true Sigma doesn't operate from ego. He doesn't perform for applause or seek validation from the crowd. Instead, he embodies quiet confidence, rooted in awareness rather than arrogance. The ego thrives on comparison, competition, and constant noise. It whispers that success must be flaunted and strength must be shown. But the spiritual Sigma sees through this illusion. He realizes that the ego is not his identity, but merely a mask, one that craves control and fears vulnerability. As he becomes more conscious, the need to prove himself begins to dissolve. He stops reacting to criticism, stops chasing recognition, and stops engaging in battles that serve no higher purpose. In spiritual growth, there's a concept known as ego death, a moment when the false self falls away, revealing the deeper, timeless being underneath. For the Sigma, this process doesn't strip him of power, it reveals his truest strength. His silence becomes a fortress, his detachment becomes focus. And his stillness is not emptiness, but presence, charged with awareness, purpose, and inner fire. Psychologically, this state aligns with what Carl Jung called individuation, the integration of the unconscious self, leading to wholeness. The Sigma doesn't dominate others to feel powerful, he masters himself. In a world obsessed with appearances, his lack of pretense is radical. He becomes the observer rather than the reactor, grounded in truth rather than image. And this non-reactive awareness becomes his shield. It allows him to remain calm under pressure, patient through chaos, and wise amid manipulation. Spiritual confidence is not loud, it's quiet and unwavering. The Sigma doesn't say, look at me. He simply is, and that is enough. Number two, he sees patterns in people and energy. He's not just reading body language anymore, he's reading energy fields. What used to be subtle cues, like a raised eyebrow or crossed arms, have now evolved into something deeper and more instinctive. Imagine entering a room and feeling a shift in the atmosphere without a word being spoken. He senses that. This isn't some mystical power pulled from thin air, it's actually grounded in neuroscience and psychology. The human brain, particularly the amygdala and prefrontal cortex, processes micro-expressions and emotional cues faster than conscious thought can catch up. Over time, especially through solitude, reflection, and observation, the mind becomes more attuned to these patterns. For him, conversations now feel like chessboards, not because he's trying to manipulate anyone, but because he's already several moves ahead. He's mapped out the possible motivations, underlying emotions, and hidden intentions before a word leaves the other person's lips. People begin to reveal themselves, not just in what they say, but in how they shift their weight, the pauses between their words, and the flicker of discomfort in their eyes. It's not paranoia. Paranoia is rooted in fear and irrational suspicion. What he's doing is pattern recognition, refined over years of silence, heartbreaks, betrayal, and time spent watching the world rather than jumping into its chaos. This level of awareness isn't just mental, it's energetic. Research shows that the human body emits measurable electromagnetic fields, and sensitive individuals can pick up on shifts in that field. So when he reads energy, he's really interpreting the unspoken emotional frequencies, nervous tension and subconscious tells. He's not being cynical, he's being calibrated. Stillness became his greatest teacher, and through that stillness, his intuition sharpened. Now, he doesn't just hear what people say, he feels what they're trying to hide. He doesn't react, he reads, calculates, and chooses whether or not to engage. This is emotional intelligence on another level, fueled by solitude, forged in trials, and activated by a deep alignment with his inner self. Number 3, his discipline becomes sacred. Before, it was just willpower. Now, it's purpose. This transformation marks the awakening of a deeper consciousness, a shift from merely surviving to intentionally living. In the past, he would fast just to prove he could resist food, a raw demonstration of grit. But now fasting becomes a sacred discipline, not to punish the body, but to master desire. It's a quiet rebellion against the culture of indulgence. Science even backs this up. Fasting has been shown to improve mental clarity, enhance focus, and reduce inflammation in the body. But for him, the real reward isn't physical, it's spiritual. He learns that desire is not the enemy, but the teacher. He observes it, studies it, and ultimately rules it. Rising early isn't about checking off another box on a productivity list or worshipping the grind. It's about reclaiming the stillness of dawn. He wakes before the world does, not to hustle, but to listen, to the silence, to the breath, to the quiet whisper of divine guidance. According to research, early risers often report higher levels of satisfaction and self-discipline. But again, that's just a side effect. For him, it's about tuning into a frequency the noise of the day drowns out. Routine evolves into ritual, not in a robotic sense, but as a ceremony of intention. Every act, no matter how small, pouring water, opening a window, tying shoes, becomes deliberate, infused with awareness. Studies in psychology show that rituals, even simple ones, can reduce anxiety and boost performance. But more than that, rituals anchor the soul. They remind him that life isn't a blur to be rushed through. It's sacred ground to be walked with reverence. So now every step, every breath, every choice is purposeful. He's no longer running on empty motivation or shallow trends. He's aligned with a deeper rhythm, a calling. This is more than discipline, it's devotion. More than mindset, it's transformation. When willpower fades, purpose endures. This is how a man becomes unshakable. Not through external force, but internal alignment. He no longer acts to prove, he acts to become. Number 4, he feels time differently. Most people are stuck in a mental prison, replaying past mistakes or fantasizing about futures that never arrive. They live in a haze of what-ifs and someday, rarely grounded in the power of now. But the spiritual Sigma is wired differently. He doesn't live in regret, nor does he chase illusions. He exists in deep presence, a state that most can only touch for fleeting moments. While others let time manage them, he masters time by mastering his focus. This isn't mystical fluff. Neuroscience confirms that our perception of time changes based on attention. When you're fully immersed, what psychologists call a flow state, time either expands or contracts. The Sigma lives in this zone naturally. One focused hour of his effort can produce results that take others weeks to accomplish, simply because he's undistracted, intentional, and aligned. He doesn't fear aging or death because he's not spending his life running away from it. Unlike the masses who are terrified by the ticking clock, he understands that every second is a chance to walk in purpose. He's not interested in accumulating time, he's interested in filling it with meaning. To him, legacy isn't about how long he lives, but how deeply he lives. And that's what bends reality. This kind of presence shifts everything. Conversations become richer, work becomes sacred. Relationships are no longer about filling a void, but about sharing abundance. He is calm in chaos because he isn't chasing the external world. He's rooted within. Studies have shown that mindfulness, which the Sigma embodies naturally, can lower stress, enhance memory, and even slow biological aging. So while society rushes ahead, constantly distracted, the Sigma male walks slowly but with precision. And in that slowness, he gets more done, feels more alive, and connects more deeply. Because when you stop trying to beat time and start being fully in it, you don't just live longer, you live fuller. Number 5, he learns to listen to the invisible. He trusts the silence between thoughts, the pause before action, the gut feeling that makes no logical sense but always turns out right. This isn't mysticism, it's high-functioning perception, and the truth is most men are simply too noisy inside to hear it. In a world addicted to distraction, noise has become the default setting. Constant input, endless scrolling, voices, opinions, and algorithms, all vying for control over the mind. But a Sigma male is different. He doesn't run from silence, he runs toward it. Neuroscience shows that the human brain, when quiet, is still highly active in what's called the default mode network, a space where introspection, deep processing, and creative insight occur. This is where the Sigma lives. The silence between thoughts is not empty for him. It's a portal to something deeper, an intuitive intelligence that bypasses the surface chatter and locks directly onto truth. That gut feeling people talk about. It's not magic, it's the brain's subconscious processing of thousands of micro-signals that logic hasn't caught up with yet. And while others second-guess or overanalyze, the Sigma moves, not rashly, but precisely. It's the pause before action where his power lies, that brief moment of stillness when he consults an internal compass that no one else can read. History is full of silent strategists like this: Marcus Aurelius, Miyamoto Musashi, and Nikola Tesla, men who understood that clarity isn't found in the noise, but in the quiet spaces most people avoid. The Sigma's detachment from emotional chaos allows him to pick up on the subtle, the hidden, and the patterns no one else sees. While the world looks outward for answers, he looks inward, and he's rarely wrong. It's not arrogance, it's attunement. His silence is not emptiness, it's bandwidth. His pause is not hesitation, it's calibration. And that gut feeling, that centuries of instinct, honed by solitude, sharpened by experience, and executed without the need for applause. In the end, most men react. The Sigma male responds. And the difference between the two isn't just noticeable, it's undeniable. Number 6, he stops needing to win. The spiritual Sigma male has transcended the need to chase outcomes for validation. Unlike the average man who is driven by results, status, or applause, the Sigma has outgrown that addiction. He understands that attachment to outcomes breeds anxiety, ego, and illusion. His focus isn't on whether he wins or loses, but on whether he stayed true to himself in the process. This mindset is rooted in ancient wisdom and echoed in philosophies from Stoicism to Buddhism. Control what you can, release what you can't. The Sigma only plays games that align with his purpose. He doesn't engage in meaningless competitions or seek approval in empty victories. If something doesn't resonate with his energy, he walks away. No drama, no explanation, no guilt. This isn't apathy, it's energetic discipline. He knows that peace is more valuable than proving a point. When he loses, he doesn't internalize it. His self-worth isn't wounded because it never hinged on the scoreboard to begin with. He's learned that failure is just a teacher wearing a different costume. His identity isn't built on titles, trophies, or opinions. It's built on alignment, on whether his choices match his soul's path. He listens deeply to that inner compass. If it says no, he obeys, even when the world screams yes. That's what makes him so rare. In a society obsessed with hustle, noise, and validation, the spiritual Sigma moves in silence and substance. He's not easily swayed by outcomes because he lives for something deeper, authenticity. He doesn't chase, he attracts. He doesn't force, he flows. He doesn't need to dominate the game because he understands the game is an illusion unless it aligns with his higher self. In this space of detachment, he becomes untouchable. Not because he's cold or arrogant, but because he has mastered what so many never will, the art of letting go. He doesn't fear walking alone because solitude brings him closer to source, and in that connection he finds everything: peace, power, and clarity. The spiritual Sigma's superpower is this: he's already won by simply being in tune with who he really is. Number 7, He attracts without trying. When a man is fully present, he radiates a rare energy that speaks louder than words ever could. He doesn't need to posture or boast. His calm demeanor is rooted in something deeper than ego. It's not that he's trying to impress anyone. In fact, he often doesn't care whether anyone notices him or not. But paradoxically, this very indifference becomes a powerful magnet. This is not the flashy charm of charisma. It's something more grounded, more ancient. It's energetic gravity. When a man operates from a place of stillness and self-awareness, his presence alone shifts the energy in a room. He listens more than he speaks. He sees without judgment. He moves with intention. And this quiet confidence unsettles people because it's not common. In a society obsessed with constant validation, performance and noise, the Sigma male stands apart. He is a vortex of authenticity in a world that's addicted to masks. Women are naturally drawn to it, not because he's trying to attract them, but because his authenticity awakens something deep in their subconscious, something ancient and biological. He feels safe, grounded and yet mysterious. On the other hand, many men become confused or even threatened by this energy because it challenges the unspoken rules of masculine identity built around dominance, competition, and external achievement. But no matter how people react, whether with desire, confusion, or envy, one thing is consistent: they can't ignore him. Psychologists and energy theorists often speak of presence as a real phenomenon, measurable in brainwave coherence and heart rate variability. When someone is in deep alignment with themselves, their body emits a frequency of calm authority, often referred to as heart coherence or harmonic resonance. This is why monks, warriors, and sages throughout history have all been described as having a certain aura about them. That aura isn't mystical fluff. It's biology aligning with spiritual maturity. The Sigma male, in his quiet glow, embodies this principle. He doesn't chase validation because he has already validated himself. He doesn't seek control because he has mastered self-control. And this inner alignment makes him unforgettable. Not because he forces his way into people's attention, but because his very being reminds others of what they've lost, their own authenticity. Number 8, he becomes the mirror. Once spiritually awakened, the Sigma male undergoes a powerful internal transformation, one that elevates him from a man of action to a man of presence. He no longer reacts impulsively to chaos or conflict. Instead, he reflects. In this reflective state, he becomes an immovable force, calm and grounded like a mountain amid a storm. This unshakable demeanor unnerves manipulators who thrive on emotional reactivity. Their tactics fall flat because the Sigma doesn't bite the bait. He sees through their games with piercing clarity, and his silence becomes louder than any argument. The insecure, too, find his stillness agitating. Why? Because it mirrors back their own unrest. They expect others to match their frequency of drama or neediness. But the Sigma doesn't. He operates on a different wavelength altogether. To the evolved, however, this frequency is magnetic. They recognize the depth in his stillness, the wisdom in his words, and the power in his restraint. Scientifically, this shift in presence can even be observed. Research in neuroscience has shown that emotionally regulated individuals exhibit stronger activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational thought and self-awareness. The spiritually awakened Sigma lives from this space. His presence changes rooms, shifts conversations, and exposes truths without uttering a word. He's not merely a man anymore. He's energy, a vibration that disrupts the unconscious patterns of others. People don't always know why they feel drawn to or unsettled by him. It's because he resonates at a frequency they're not used to, a frequency of truth, detachment, and awakened consciousness. He's not here to be understood. He's here too. And in that being, others either rise to meet him or fall away, unable to exist in the same field of awareness. When a Sigma male unlocks his spiritual power, it's not some flashy transformation with loud declarations or outward displays. Instead, it's a quiet yet earth-shaking shift. He doesn't seek attention, he becomes. This man no longer chases validation from the world. He's discovered the universe within. Like a sword forged in fire and refined in silence, he hones his soul through solitude, reflection, and intense self-awareness. The world can no longer deceive him because he's attuned to deeper truths. Neuroscience shows that meditation and inner work sharpen cognitive function and heighten emotional intelligence. Tools the Sigma uses to navigate reality with precision. He doesn't react impulsively. He observes, then moves with intention. This isn't about becoming a monk or escaping society. It's about conquering the battlefield of the mind and then mastering the outer world through sheer presence. A spiritually awakened Sigma doesn't need followers because he's not leading anyone but himself. Yet, paradoxically, people follow him. They feel his gravity. He walks into a room and changes the energy without saying a word. Like a storm that doesn't thunder, his impact is silent but undeniable. When he chooses to disappear, he does so without explanation, and when he returns, he's reborn, wiser, sharper, and more aligned. His power doesn't scream, it whispers, it doesn't crowd, it clears the path. In a world addicted to noise, the Sigma's stillness becomes his superpower. And when he walks with purpose, quietly, powerfully, unforgettably. He doesn't speak much, but when he does, silence listens. In a world addicted to noise, tweets, reels, opinions shouted into the void, the Sigma male operates on a different frequency. While others rush to be seen and heard, the Sigma watches. He studies what others overlook, the subtle shift in body language, the hesitation behind a confident tone, the cracks in the mask people wear. He doesn't need to dominate a conversation. He already owns the room by understanding it better than anyone else. The Sigma male isn't just an introvert or a rebel without a cause. Psychologically, he exists outside traditional dominance hierarchies, neither seeking leadership like the alpha, nor submitting like the beta. He simply detaches and observes, operating by his own rules. That detachment terrifies systems built on compliance, popularity, and noise. Sociologists have observed that individuals like the Sigma often resist groupthink, making decisions rooted in logic, intuition, and deep reflection. He can't be manipulated with trends or guilt-tripped by social norms. That's the danger. While others fight for attention, he quietly absorbs information, making moves no one anticipated. Like a chess grandmaster, he sees the board 10 steps ahead. His unpredictability makes him powerful because you can't control what you don't understand. And what the Sigma sees, patterns, motives, illusions, changes everything. His strength lies not in physical dominance or loud declarations, but in strategic thinking, self-reliance, and razor-sharp awareness. He's not waiting to be accepted. He's already gone where others haven't dared to look. Welcome to Brain Boosters, the sanctuary of strategic thought and silent strength. This isn't for the loud or the desperate. It's for those who recognize that true power isn't broadcast. It's sensed. Today, we're diving deep into the mindset of the Sigma male and the quiet threat he poses to systems built on conformity and distraction. Because the Sigma doesn't just walk alone, he walks aware, and that awareness is a weapon. Let's begin. Number one, the system rewards obedience, not insight. From schools to corporate boardrooms, modern society has quietly molded men into obedient cogs in a larger machine. The system trains them early. Sit still, follow the rules, repeat what you're told. Schools reward memorization over innovation, compliance over curiosity. And once they graduate, the workplace continues the conditioning. Policies, hierarchies, job descriptions, all designed to keep the average man in line. But the Sigma male was never engineered to play by these rules. While others conform, he questions. While others nod, he observes. He's not rebellious in a loud, reckless way. He's tactical, calculated. He doesn't just reject the programming, he studies it, understands it, and then exits the system in his own way. You won't find him making a scene in a meeting or ranting about injustice on social media. Instead, he quietly finds the loopholes. He creates businesses instead of begging for promotions. He builds his own path instead of climbing someone else's ladder. Psychologists have observed that men with strong introverted intuition and independent thinking traits, often seen in Sigma personalities, score lower on agreeableness and higher on openness to experience. This means they don't easily comply just to please others, and they're more willing to explore unconventional paths. Society often labels them as difficult or antisocial, but in truth they are the builders of parallel systems. From Elon Musk launching rockets to digital nomads making money while traveling the world, the Sigma's refusal to conform often results in breakthroughs that others later try to mimic. But here's the twist. He doesn't do it for recognition. He does it because obedience feels like slow death. For him, blind conformity is a trap, and freedom isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. While most are asleep inside the illusion, the Sigma male is fully awake, choosing not to shout from the rooftops, but to walk away entirely. He sees the programming for what it is, a set of rules designed to benefit the architects of the system, not its participants. And rather than complain, he simply opts out with quiet confidence and unshakable self-direction. In a world built on obedience, his defiance isn't chaos, it's clarity. Number 2, groupthink is the currency of the weak. Most people don't want the truth, they want approval. That's the uncomfortable reality of the modern world. In workplaces, relationships, and even social media feeds, people often say what's acceptable rather than what's authentic. It's a survival tactic rooted in our evolutionary psychology. In ancient tribal societies, being accepted by the group often meant staying alive. But in today's world, this herd mentality has morphed into a form of psychological conformity. Enter the Sigma male, the outlier, the anomaly, the one who doesn't seek validation because he's not playing the same game. While others perform verbal gymnastics to sound agreeable, the Sigma calmly speaks the truth, even if it unsettles the room. His silence isn't passive, it's powerful. He's not interested in being liked. He's interested in being real. That makes him dangerous in a world built on filters and facades. Sigma males observe that most people are driven by a subconscious need to fit in, often sacrificing their own beliefs just to be accepted. But the Sigma has already made peace with solitude. He understands that isolation isn't a punishment, it's a position of power. In solitude, he sharpens his thoughts, refines his purpose, and strengthens his identity. While the herd moves in circles, the Sigma moves forward. Studies in psychology show that individuals who are less influenced by social approval, what's known as low social conformity, tend to have higher self-esteem and a stronger internal locus of control. That's Sigma energy in a nutshell. It's not arrogance, it's independence. The Sigma male walks the opposite way, not out of rebellion, but out of alignment with his values. He sees the noise, the fake smiles, the desperate need to belong. And he chooses silence, depth, and truth instead. And what happens when you choose truth over approval? You lose the crowd, but you gain yourself. You stop echoing what's popular and start embodying what's true. That's why Sigma males are so misunderstood, because they live in a world that rewards compliance, but they're wired for conviction. So while the majority chase applause, the Sigma is content building quietly, observing deeply, and speaking only when it matters. Not everyone gets him, but that's the point. He didn't come to blend in, he came to break the mold. Number 3, attention is the new addiction. The world today is loud, noisy, not just with sound, but with the constant hum of performance. Every scroll on social media is a stage play, curated smiles, calculated captions, filtered realities designed to impress, provoke, or seduce. We live in an era where validation is currency. The likes, the follows, the attention, all feeding a dopamine loop that makes many people feel seen, valued, and alive. But the Sigma male has long since unplugged from that system. He doesn't move to the rhythm of public applause or bend to the algorithms of approval. He sees the show for what it is, a performance designed to distract, not to fulfill. While others chase viral fame and external affirmation, the Sigma seeks solitude and internal clarity. He's not detached because he's cold. He's detached because he's awake. Psychologists often refer to this mindset as intrinsic motivation, a state where a person is driven by internal goals and values rather than external rewards. That's the Sigma's domain. He doesn't need validation from the outside world because his self-worth isn't built on public opinion. Instead, it's forged through personal discipline, deep thinking, and self-reliance. He watches from a distance, not with arrogance, but with awareness. He knows the cost of chasing applause is often authenticity. He sees how easy it is to lose yourself when your reflection is based on others' reactions. That's why he's quiet. That's why he disappears from the noise. He's not antisocial, he's selectively social. He doesn't perform for likes, he acts from purpose. He doesn't follow trends, he follows truth. This disconnection gives him power. In a world addicted to visibility, his invisibility makes him unpredictable, intriguing, and ultimately uncontrollable. He isn't trying to be mysterious, it's just a natural byproduct of living in alignment with values, not validation. The Sigma male is proof that you can still thrive without broadcasting your every move. that peace is more powerful than popularity, and that sometimes the most revolutionary act is simply to remain silent in a world that won't shut up. Number 4, emotions are marketed as logic. Modern culture has gradually shifted toward a celebration of emotion as identity, where how you is often treated as more important than what is actually. In today's hyperreactive society, outrage is rewarded with attention, impulsive feelings are mistaken for deep insight, and public opinion can be swayed more by a TikTok trend than by logical argument. Feelings have started to override facts. If someone offended, that feeling becomes the ultimate truth, regardless of context, intent, or reality. Emotional fragility has been marketed as moral authority, and the loudest person in the room is often mistaken for the wisest. But the Sigma male doesn't play by those rules. He's not emotionally detached, but emotionally disciplined. He observes without reacting, understanding that not every situation requires his energy or input. While others argue to be heard, he listens to understand. When people panic, he calculates. He knows that reacting out of emotion rarely leads to clarity, it leads to chaos. Neuroscience backs this up. The amygdala, the brain's emotional center, often overrides the prefrontal cortex during moments of high stress, causing people to react before they think. The Sigma trains himself to reverse that cycle. He pauses, he thinks, and he only responds when a response is necessary and when it serves a purpose. In a culture where emotional overexposure is normalized and even monetized, the Sigma's restraint is a rare form of power. He doesn't tweet his every thought, he doesn't join every debate, and he doesn't let emotion dictate his reality. This makes him unpredictable to many, even threatening, but it also makes him effective. While others are busy performing their emotions for likes and sympathy, he is making silent moves, staying grounded in facts, reason, and long-term vision. It's not that he doesn't feel, it's that he refuses to be ruled by feelings. In a world where outrage is currency, the Sigma stays rich in clarity. Number 5, surface-level sells, depth gets silenced. People want entertainment, not truth. That's the hard reality of the world we live in. Flashy trends, viral dances, clickbait headlines, these dominate the spotlight because they offer instant gratification with zero effort. We've become a society that prefers the dopamine hit of distraction over the discipline of reflection. In this noisy chaos, shallow wins. It's not because people are inherently shallow, but because it's easier to scroll than to think, to laugh than to learn, and to follow than to question. Amid this cultural tidal wave of surface-level content and manufactured personalities enters the Sigma male, silent, observant, and profoundly different. He doesn't crave attention, he values clarity. He doesn't follow trends, he follows purpose. While others are busy performing for the crowd, he's behind the scenes building something real, whether it's his mind, his mission, or his mastery. This depth is exactly what makes him invisible to the average eye. People overlook him not because he lacks value, but because they can't comprehend value that isn't loud, packaged, and polished for public consumption. The Sigma male walks a different path, not because he's trying to be unique, but because shallow waters don't interest deep souls. His strength lies in his solitude, where he refines his thoughts, sharpens his instincts, and cultivates a life that's guided by principles, not popularity. But here's the twist. Once people finally notice him, it's usually when they need him. When the show ends and reality crashes in, when surface charm fades and substance matters, suddenly the Sigma becomes visible. But by then it's too late. He's already moved on, already ahead, already leveled up while they were laughing at filters and fads. In a world addicted to illusion, he remains grounded in truth, not the kind that preaches, but the kind that, and that's why he doesn't just stand out. Not because he's trying to impress anyone, but because he refuses to impress the wrong people. He's not part of the game. He watches it, understands it, and then quietly rewrites the rules. And by the time others figure out what he was doing all along, the Sigma has already left the room, and all that's left behind is silence. Number 6, power is camouflaged in smiles. In boardrooms, politics, and even friendships, manipulation often wears a friendly face, cloaked in charm, compliments, and calculated warmth. Most people are fooled by surface-level behavior, assuming that a smile equals sincerity. But the Sigma male doesn't play by those rules. He sees behind the mask. reading subtext instead of taking words at face value. While others get caught in the theatrics of emotional games, flattery, and performative empathy, the Sigma is studying the energy beneath the surface. Body language, tone inconsistencies, micro-expressions. These aren't just background noise to him, they're data. A sudden shift in posture, a too eager compliment, or a smile that doesn't reach the eyes are subtle cues that many overlook, but to the Sigma, they speak volumes. This ability to read between the lines isn't just intuition, it's rooted in psychological awareness. Studies in behavioral psychology show that over 60% of communication is non-verbal, and the Sigma male intuitively taps into that frequency. He's not easily seduced by charm or guilt, tripped by emotional manipulation, which makes him unpredictable and unsettling to manipulators. People who rely on manipulation thrive on control. They craft personas to influence how others feel and react, but when they meet someone who sees straight through the act, it shakes them. They can't lie to what sees through them. And the discomfort isn't just emotional, it's strategic. A Sigma male's presence threatens the power dynamics of those who manipulate. In politics, this means questioning motives behind polished speeches. In business, it means catching on to hidden agendas buried in boardroom diplomacy. And in friendships, it means sensing the difference between genuine care and opportunism. The Sigma doesn't expose manipulators loudly. He simply doesn't buy into their game. That silent resistance is what unnerves people the most. Because the moment someone realizes they can't manipulate you, they either retreat or escalate. But either way, the Sigma never reacts with desperation or fear. He remains unbothered, stoic, and self-governed. He's not there to be liked, he's there to see the truth. And that alone makes him one of the most dangerous people in a world built on pretense. Where others seek validation, the Sigma seeks understanding. And once he sees through you, you can never unsee the fact that he knows. And number 7, the world distrusts what it can't control. The Sigma doesn't submit, he doesn't beg, he doesn't need it. And that alone makes him a threat to the very system society depends on to function smoothly. In a world where conformity is rewarded and predictability is praised, the Sigma male throws a wrench in the machine by refusing to play by the same rules. He moves in silence, guided not by societal validation but by internal conviction. This lack of dependence makes him unpredictable, and in the eyes of any structure, be it corporate, cultural, or social, unpredictability is dangerous. Systems are designed to forecast behavior and to categorize and control people within roles, expectations, and routines. But the Sigma slips through those cracks. He's the man who walks away from promotions, relationships, and social circles, not because he can't have them, but because he doesn't need them. Studies in social psychology highlight that humans naturally feel discomfort toward those they can't categorize. This is known as cognitive dissonance. When a Sigma male defies traditional masculine archetypes like the alpha or beta, he becomes difficult to define, and people begin projecting labels out of fear or confusion. He's cold, they say. He's arrogant. But really, he's free, and freedom unsettles the status quo. The Sigma's self-sufficiency challenges the belief that validation must come from group approval or hierarchical rank. He doesn't chase attention, yet he commands it. He doesn't flaunt power, yet he radiates strength. This makes him a psychological disruptor, a quiet rebellion in human form. From a sociological standpoint, he destabilizes the groupthink mechanism that holds many communities and organizations together. If one person refuses to need what the group offers, status, approval, even intimacy, others start to question their own dependence. That's dangerous to any system built on compliance and uniformity. The Sigma doesn't need the system to survive, but the system needs people like him to stay quiet. And when he doesn't, when he walks in with quiet confidence and no agenda, he becomes a mirror that reflects everyone's insecurities and dependencies back at them. That's why people label what they can't label. It's easier to call him dangerous than to admit he represents a form of power that can't be bought, bullied, or broken. He doesn't fit in a box, and that's exactly why he matters. Number 8, truth is a lonely road. To see clearly is to walk alone. The Sigma male understands this truth not as a curse, but as a necessary path to self-mastery. His clarity of vision, his rare awareness, often separates him from the herd, not because he desires isolation, but because most people fear the discomfort that awareness brings. While the majority seek the safety of crowds and the comfort of consensus, the Sigma sees through the illusions that society feeds on: status, validation, conformity, and surface-level success. He knows that awareness comes at a steep price. It costs relationships, approval, and the ease of ignorance. But he pays it gladly, because the cost of illusions is ultimately higher. Illusions trap the mind in cycles of dependency, anxiety, and regret. They tell you to chase trends instead of purpose, applause instead of authenticity. The Sigma doesn't buy into it. He studies the silent mechanics of social interaction, understands manipulation when it's disguised as kindness, and detects insecurity hidden behind arrogance. This psychological independence makes him a threat in the eyes of the unaware. Psychology research shows that people who deviate from group norms often face social rejection, even when their viewpoints are correct. This is why the Sigma walks alone, not out of pride, but out of necessity. His path is one of deep introspection, constant learning, and brutal honesty with himself. He would rather face the sting of truth than the warm fog of deception, and that's what makes him powerful. In a world that thrives on curated appearances and hollow narratives, the Sigma lives in raw clarity. He strips away pretense and dares to see things as they truly are. And though his path is lonely, it's liberating. Because once you see the game, you can't unsee it. And once you understand your worth beyond the social scoreboard, you stop playing by other people's rules. The Sigma doesn't reject connection. He just refuses to lose himself in it. His solitude isn't empty. It's sacred. It's in that silence, away from the noise, that he finds what the world has forgotten: inner strength, purpose, and peace. He walks alone, yes, but he walks in truth. And for the Sigma, that's more than enough. He doesn't need to fight the noise. He simply walks through it untouched. Now that we've walked his world, it's time to enter his mind. Let's step into the core within, the silent operating system that drives the Sigma male from the inside out. Until then, stay curious, be unseen, be unfazed, be unforgettable. Hello, Sigmas. You think you know him, but what you see is only the surface. The truth? He doesn't want to be known. And that's exactly what makes him dangerous. He's the man who walks through a room without saying a word and still manages to dominate its energy. He doesn't crave your attention, yet somehow he captures it. That stillness, that calm exterior, it's not laziness or indifference. It's strategy. It's control. The Sigma male is often misunderstood because he doesn't play by the rules of social hierarchy. He's not an alpha barking orders or a beta seeking approval. He's outside the entire pack. A Sigma male operates on his own terms, walking the edge between visibility and invisibility. And it's not just about mystery, it's about power. Studies in psychology suggest that individuals who are perceived as reserved or emotionally self-contained tend to trigger greater curiosity and respect in social dynamics. That's why people remember the Sigma even after he's long gone. But don't be fooled. Behind the calm, there's a storm of complexity. He's introspective to the point of being surgical. He's constantly analyzing the world and himself, not out of anxiety, but out of sheer precision. Most people talk to be heard. He speaks only when it matters, and that unnerves others, because silence is power when used with intent. What he hides isn't weakness, it's strength. Hidden battles, private convictions, unresolved wounds, all of it turned inward and alchemized into grit. Society often pressures men to express vulnerability for validation, but the Sigma isn't interested in putting his soul on display for applause. He knows that not everything valuable needs to be seen. What's buried inside him? Emotional endurance, a code of loyalty, and a relentless pursuit of self-mastery. Each hidden layer is a weapon, refined through solitude, forged in silence, and polished by experience. So today we go beyond the mask. We step into the unseen territory of the Sigma psyche and uncover the strange, powerful truths he keeps tucked away. These aren't just secrets, they're survival tools. Let's begin with the first. Weird trait 1. He fears one thing: becoming ordinary. He's not afraid of failure because to him, failure isn't the end, it's the tuition fee for mastery. While most people tremble at the idea of falling short, the Sigma male embraces it. He studies his missteps like a scientist in a lab, dissecting each error not with shame, but with curiosity. He understands what Thomas Edison meant when he said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. He's not afraid of being alone either. In fact, solitude is where he thrives. Unlike extroverts who draw energy from crowds, the Sigma male draws strength from silence. Neuroscience supports this, showing that time spent in solitude can enhance creativity, improve focus, and even increase emotional regulation. But here's the twist. What truly keeps him up at night isn't failure or isolation. It's the idea of fading into the background of a scripted life. The thought of waking up one day and realizing he's simply played a part in someone else's story terrifies him. He doesn't want to become another name on a payroll, another commuter on autopilot, or another opinion recycled from social media. His fear is existential, a quiet panic that he might forget his mission, lose his edge, and dissolve into mediocrity. He guards his individuality like a lion protects its territory. While others chase trends, he carves his own path. He questions everything from societal expectations to his own motivations because he refuses to live a life by default. Studies in psychology show that people who operate from intrinsic motivation like the Sigma male are more likely to experience long-term fulfillment and purpose. So while the world praises those who fit in, he silently builds a legacy that stands out. He's not trying to impress anyone, he's trying to remain true to the fire that burns within, and that's why he can walk away from a job, a relationship, or even a reputation, if it means staying aligned with his deeper calling. Because for the Sigma male, the real danger isn't failure or loneliness, it's dying with his mission still locked inside him, unspoken and unfinished. Weird trait too, he feels deeply, but processes it privately. You won't see him cry, you won't hear him rant. He's the type of man who walks through storms with his hands in his pockets, shoulders square, and silence as his armor. But don't let that stoic surface fool you, because when he's alone, he transforms into a mental surgeon, dissecting his life with almost clinical precision. Pain isn't just felt, it's studied. Betrayal isn't just endured. It's analyzed like a complex riddle. Hope and loss aren't swept under the rug. They're placed on the table, turned over, and examined from every angle. This is the hidden emotional life of a Sigma male, the archetype of the introspective lone wolf. Psychology tells us that emotionally intelligent individuals don't always express emotions outwardly. They process them internally, often through self-reflection and problem-solving. That's exactly what's happening behind closed doors. Instead of venting to friends or breaking down in front of others, the Sigma male chooses solitude to regain clarity. He doesn't drown in his feelings, he decodes them. And that's what makes him powerful. It's not repression, it's transformation. Studies on cognitive processing suggest that individuals who journal, meditate, or simply take time to reflect privately are better at emotional regulation and long-term decision-making. That's why, even when life hits hard, the Sigma male doesn't spiral out of control. He absorbs the blow, retreats to silence, and then rebuilds from the inside out. In a society that often confuses loud expression with strength, his quiet resilience may be misunderstood as coldness or detachment, but in truth it's a form of emotional mastery. He knows that feelings are data, not destiny. So rather than being consumed by them, he decodes the message they carry, files it away, and keeps walking. This inward discipline, this private battle against chaos, is what allows him to re-enter the world composed, focused, and unshaken. He doesn't need applause for surviving. He doesn't crave sympathy for enduring. He just needs a quiet room, a few hours, and the trust that he can make sense of it all on his own. So the next time you see him calm when he should be falling apart, know this. It's not that he feels less. It's that he feels deeply, but processes like a warrior. Weird trait 3. He second-guesses everything, especially himself, not out of weakness, but from a need to refine. This is the silent philosophy of the Sigma male, a man not driven by ego, but by relentless self-examination. Every move he makes is deliberate, not because he's afraid to fail, but because he wants to grow. In a world that often celebrates noise and surface-level validation, the Sigma male retreats into depth. He questions everything, not just the world around him, but also his own instincts, assumptions, and motives. His decisions are not impulsive, but processed through intense introspection. This is not a symptom of insecurity, but evidence of an internal evolution. While others may rush to speak or act to prove their worth, the Sigma observes, studies, and recalibrates. He doesn't fear being wrong, Mistakes are part of the process. What he truly fears is being unaware, disconnected from truth, or asleep at the wheel of his own life. His mind is his battleground, and his quest is for clarity. This mindset aligns closely with the philosophical concept of the idea that wisdom begins with recognizing one's own limitations. Sigmas embody this without ever labeling it. Studies in psychology even suggest that those with higher levels of metacognition, the ability to think about one's own thinking, tend to make better decisions and adapt more quickly to change. That's the Sigma in motion, adapting, adjusting, and refining. He lives in constant beta mode. Not because he's broken, but because he's evolving. It's not about being the loudest or the most followed. It's about being the most self-aware. In a society obsessed with certainty, he finds power in curiosity. That's why people often misunderstand him. He can seem distant or hard to read, but in truth, he's just busy thinking deeper than most people are comfortable with. The Sigma male's journey is not linear, and it's certainly not glamorous by conventional standards, but it's real. It's raw, and it's purposeful. He's not afraid to destroy an old version of himself if it means building a better one. In the end, his detachment is not coldness, it's precision. His silence is not absence, it's focus. And his refinement is not perfectionism, it's transformation. Weird trait 4. He's obsessed with freedom, but operates in systems. It sounds contradictory, but it's not. The Sigma male doesn't crave chaos, he craves control. But unlike the Alpha, who commands the external world, the Sigma builds an inner empire governed by structure, self-discipline, and unshakable mental clarity. He doesn't need to dominate people, he dominates himself. Every action in his life, from his morning routine to the way he walks into a room, is deliberate. He wakes before the world, not to post it online, but because he values the silence. In that quiet, he builds mental fortresses, through routines, private rituals, and codes of conduct that only he follows. Psychology studies have found that routines can reduce anxiety, increase focus, and even strengthen willpower. Traits Sigma males seem to embody effortlessly. They live by an internal compass that never seeks applause. At his core, the Sigma is an engineer of his own psyche. He reverse engineers his past experiences to understand patterns, emotions, and flaws. He processes feelings like data, breaking them down, extracting meaning and making peace with them instead of letting them fester. No emotion goes unprocessed. He doesn't suppress what he feels, he studies it. No weakness goes unchecked. If there's a flaw in his character or a gap in his skill set, he isolates it like a virus and works until it's no longer a threat. And no illusion goes unchallenged, whether it's societal norms, groupthink, or even his own assumptions. The Sigma questions everything. He doesn't just live in the world, he audits it. While some chase influence and followers, he builds influence by simply mastering himself. That mastery gives him an eerie calm, an invisible power that people sense but don't quite understand. He walks through chaos like a man who's already prepared for the storm, not because he controls the world, but because he controls his response to it. That's the paradox. His freedom comes from structure, his power from discipline, and his silence speaks louder than the noise around him. This is not just stoicism, it's strategy. The Sigma doesn't obey the world, he designs his own. Weird trait 5, he ghosted you, not to hurt you, but to protect his energy. People often call it cold. They say he's distant, aloof, or even arrogant. But what they don't understand is that for him, silence is not a weakness, it's a weapon. It's a shield he's learned to wield in a world that demands constant noise, validation, and emotional availability. This man, often described as a Sigma male, operates on a different wavelength. He doesn't engage in small talk for the sake of filling awkward silence. He doesn't respond to every provocation or feel the need to explain his every move. Instead, he observes, calculates, and evaluates. Every interaction is measured. He asks himself, will this drain me? Will it disrespect me? Or will it distract me from my purpose? If the answer is yes to any of those, he's already out the door, mentally, emotionally, or physically. This isn't emotional detachment, it's emotional discipline. Psychology actually supports this behavior. Studies in cognitive load theory show that humans have limited mental energy, and constantly engaging in unnecessary conversations or toxic environments depletes that energy quickly. Introverts and analytical thinkers, especially those with traits associated with high-functioning autonomy, know that their peace is a form of power. And so he chooses solitude over chaos, clarity over confusion, and purpose over popularity. What may seem like avoidance is actually discernment. He's learned through experience that not everyone deserves access to his time, his thoughts, or his energy. There's also a neurological edge to his behavior. The brain's amygdala, which processes emotions like fear and anger, is less reactive in people who practice restraint and self-control, traits that define his quiet demeanor. While others shout to be heard, he speaks only when necessary, and when he does, people listen because his words carry the weight of thought and intention. His silence is not a void, it's a boundary, one that protects his mental clarity, filters out nonsense, and allows him to focus on what truly matters. So when people say he's cold, what they really mean is that they can't penetrate his peace, and that frustrates them. Because in a noisy world full of attention seekers, the man who chooses stillness and self-respect stands out, not by trying to be different, but by refusing to be anything other than true to himself. Weird trait 6, he respects loyalty but rarely trusts anyone fully. He knows people change when they need something. This isn't cynicism, it's clarity born from experience. The Sigma male has observed it countless times. The sudden friendliness of someone who once ignored him, the carefully chosen words from those who once dismissed him, and the resurrected relationships that only rise from the grave when opportunity knocks. He's learned the hard truth that when desperation enters the room, personalities shift like shadows at sunset. Words he knows are cheap. Anyone can say the right thing when the stakes are low or when they want something in return. Flattery becomes currency in this transactional world, a manipulative art form dressed up as sincerity. Compliments to him are not always gifts, but often tools of persuasion, cloaked in charm to mask intent. That's why he doesn't trust promises. He trusts patterns. Human behavior is predictable if you're willing to watch without emotion. The Sigma observes the repetitions, the way someone reacts under stress, how they behave when no one's watching, how consistent they are when the spotlight fades. He tracks these patterns like a hunter tracks footprints in the snow, knowing that the truth of a person is found not in what they say, but in what they do. That's why even when he walks beside you, you'll never see him fully expose his back. It's not that he doesn't care, it's that he's too seasoned to surrender blind trust. Like a lone wolf that joins the pack only when necessary, the Sigma male remains partially withdrawn, always watching, always aware. Trust, to him, is earned in silence, proven over time, and never demanded. Psychologically, this approach aligns with what behavioral scientists call pattern recognition bias, the ability to predict outcomes based on repeated behaviors. It's a survival mechanism rooted in intuition and refined by experience. Sigma males don't build walls out of fear. They build boundaries out of wisdom. And those boundaries protect a man who has likely been betrayed before, who has seen masks fall off, and who now understands that loyalty isn't declared, it's demonstrated. So when the world plays its games, the Sigma male doesn't play along. He watches, he listens, and he remembers, because in the end, truth is not what people say, but what they again and again. Weird trait 7, he listens more than he speaks, because silence exposes people. In conversations, the Sigma male rarely interrupts, not because he's passive, but because he understands the power of silence. Psychologically, people tend to fill silence with their thoughts, opinions, and emotions. When someone isn't interrupted, they reveal more about themselves, sometimes more than they intend. This is exactly what the Sigma male is waiting for. He observes, he listens, and he learns. By choosing to stay quiet, he gains insight into people's character, intentions, and insecurities. It's a subtle but effective form of social intelligence. In fact, studies in behavioral psychology show that active listening increases trust and openness in others. While alpha males dominate with volume and presence, Sigma males dominate with patience and mystery. This behavior isn't born out of shyness or indifference. It's strategy. He's not interested in small talk or one-upping someone in a debate. Instead, he finds strength in restraint. In a world where everyone rushes to be heard, he stands out by not trying. His calm demeanor and selective speech give weight to his words when he finally does speak. People listen more carefully because he doesn't waste breath. It's this discipline of withholding that makes him magnetic. He doesn't have to prove anything. His silence speaks volumes. And in a society obsessed with being loud, his ability to observe in quiet makes him not just different, but dangerous in the most intelligent way. Weird trait 8. He can be charming, but chooses not to be. Yes, he can play the game. He can manipulate, attract, and influence. With calculated precision, he knows how to say the right things, move in silence, and command attention without raising his voice. But here's the thing. Charm feels fake to him. It's not that he can't be charming. In fact, he's mastered it. But unlike others who wield charm like a constant mask, he treats it like a blade, drawn only when absolutely necessary. That's because the Sigma male operates on a different frequency. Studies in psychology have shown that people who rely less on social validation and more on internal values often have higher levels of authenticity, which makes their rare moments of charm all the more powerful. He knows that excessive charm often borders on manipulation, and manipulation doesn't interest him unless there's a purpose behind it. While alpha males may use charisma to dominate and beta males may use it to please, the Sigma male uses it strategically to open a door, shift a dynamic, or exit a situation with precision. People sense this difference. His restraint adds weight to his words, making him more mysterious and more memorable. It's not that he can't turn on the charm, it's that he doesn't need to. And in a world obsessed with performance and pretense, that quiet resistance makes him both dangerous and deeply compelling, because when he does decide to charm, it doesn't just impress, it disarms. And that's a power he wields with purpose, not for applause. The Sigma male doesn't hide because he's weak. He hides because his truth is too sharp, too clear, and too calculated for a chaotic, overstimulated world. His silence is not rooted in fear or shame, but in precision and control. Much like the lone wolf who separates from the pack to master its instincts, the Sigma retreats not to escape, but to refine. In psychology, individuals with introverted, intuitive, and analytical traits often perform their best work in solitude. And Sigmas embody this truth. He builds in silence, not for applause, but for alignment with his values. He loves deeply, but not loudly, because real connection doesn't need a stage. Every step he takes is intentional. Every glance is observation, not reaction. He is emotionally intelligent, calculating patterns, motives, and shifts in energy. You may not always understand his moves, but his presence leaves a lasting impression, etched in the memory of those who encounter him. He doesn't shout to be heard. The weight of his silence says more than words ever could. In a world obsessed with visibility, he finds power in being unseen. Stay curious, stay hidden, stay grounded, and like the Sigma, become unforgettable by never needing to prove your worth. They tell you to follow the crowd. He never does. They say fit in, he walks out. They call it rebellion, he calls it truth. The Sigma male is not defined by noise, attention, or applause. He doesn't chase validation or broadcast his every move to win approval. Instead, his strength lies in his silence, his independence, and his ability to see the world for what it is. An elaborate stage where most people play parts written by someone else. While the majority seek comfort in conformity, the Sigma thrives in solitude, where he is free to think, question, and dismantle illusions. He's not interested in the latest trends, the social hierarchies, or the endless competition to be somebody. Not because he's trying to rebel, but because he sees the game for what it is, a system built to distract, control, and pacify. In psychological terms, the Sigma is an embodiment of the someone who's driven not by social approval, but by inner truth. He questions what others accept without a second thought. While the masses absorb narratives handed down through media, culture, and tradition, the Sigma dissects them, pulling them apart to see what they're really made of. This mindset is rooted in high critical thinking and strong self-awareness, traits often linked to lone wolves in psychology and leadership studies. He doesn't rage against the machine, he simply walks away from it, and that unnerves people. His calm, detached clarity cuts through social noise like a scalpel. And in a world that thrives on groupthink, manipulation, and shallow identity, someone who doesn't play by the script becomes a threat. Not because he attacks the system, but because he's proof that you don't need it. As we peel back the layers of mass-believed lies, remember this. The Sigma doesn't need to scream the truth. His very existence whispers it loud enough. And that whisper, that's what makes people turn, stare, and wonder what he knows that they don't. Belief 1, You need to be constantly social to be successful. The world often equates extroversion with influence. We're told that the loudest voice commands the room, that charisma equals leadership, and that success is found in constant connection. But the Sigma male quietly rewrites that narrative. For him, power isn't measured in volume. It's measured in clarity, intention, and depth. In a culture obsessed with being seen, the Sigma thrives in the unseen. Solitude isn't his punishment, it's his forge. Where others dread silence, fearing it might echo back their insecurities, the Sigma finds a signal in the quiet, a refined frequency that tunes him into his purpose. Neuroscience even backs this up. Studies show that time spent in solitude improves memory, boosts creativity, and strengthens focus by giving the brain uninterrupted space to reflect and rewire. While the extroverted world chases endless conversations and surface-level validation, the Sigma male uses his time alone to master his craft. He doesn't waste hours impressing strangers at social events. He invests those hours in building systems, refining skills, and constructing a life on his terms. Think of innovators like Nikola Tesla or introverted strategists like Warren Buffett. Men who didn't seek the spotlight but became icons because they mastered the art of focus and deliberate thinking. The Sigma doesn't resist the world, he simply walks through it differently. His quiet is not emptiness, it's incubation. His distance is not detachment, it's precision. He may appear indifferent to the buzz of the crowd, but beneath that still surface is a mind that's constantly observing, learning, and adapting. While others are distracted by popularity contests, he's busy building empires behind the scenes. Society may praise extroversion for its charm, but the Sigma male proves that silence can be just as commanding when it's backed by substance, strategy, and self-mastery. In a world that mistakes noise for strength, the Sigma's power lies in his ability to remain still, think deeply, and act decisively. Belief 2. Emotions should guide your decisions. Sigma males don't reject emotion, they master it. In a world that often tells men to either suppress their feelings or drown in them, the Sigma male walks an entirely different path. He doesn't shove emotions into the dark corners of his psyche, nor does he allow them to run wild and dictate his every move. Instead, he studies them, understands their roots, and uses them as data points rather than commands. Neuroscience confirms that emotions are closely tied to decision-making, especially in the amygdala and prefrontal cortex. But while most people are ruled by the impulses triggered in those brain regions, the Sigma male activates the higher reasoning centers to stay calm, collected, and in control. Society tends to give men two options: be as hard as stone or as soft as water, completely shut down emotionally or become emotionally reactive. But the Sigma is neither. He is fire. Not destructive and reckless, but focused and purposeful. Fire transforms, refines, and only consumes what is necessary. The Sigma uses his inner flame to burn away distractions, fuel ambition, and illuminate the truth of who he is. He doesn't lash out in anger. He channels that energy into strategy. He doesn't freeze in fear. He turns that fear into fuel for growth. He doesn't run from pain. He interrogates it, learns from it, and moves forward stronger. What sets the Sigma apart is his refusal to be emotionally manipulated. While others may cave under pressure, guilt, or societal expectations, he follows the path dictated by truth, not trends. He knows that raw emotion, unchecked, can lead people to betray themselves, but when mastered, emotions become a compass that guides him inward, toward clarity. Entertainment media often paints emotionally detached men as either villains or broken souls. But the Sigma is neither. He feels deeply but rarely shows it unless there's purpose behind the reveal. He's not heartless, he's disciplined, he's not cold, he's precise. The Sigma male's emotional intelligence lies not in how loudly he feels, but in how silently and effectively he moves through those feelings, always anchoring himself in what is real, what is right, and what is necessary. This is not denial. It is domination of the self, and in that mastery he becomes unstoppable. Belief 3, you need approval to be worthy. Likes, followers, compliments. In today's hyper-connected world, these have become society's new currency, metrics by which people measure their worth, popularity, and even success. But the Sigma male walks an entirely different path. He isn't driven by the fleeting buzz of digital validation or the applause of the crowd. His wealth isn't external, it's internal. It's the wealth of self-awareness, of knowing who he is when no one's watching. He doesn't perform to be liked, nor does he curate his personality for approval. While others chase trends and contort their image to fit social molds, the Sigma male remains anchored in authenticity. He doesn't bend to be liked. He doesn't shift to be seen. His self-respect isn't up for negotiation, and his values aren't compromised for attention. Psychology supports this mindset. Research on intrinsic motivation reveals that individuals who derive their sense of worth from internal goals, like personal growth or autonomy, tend to have higher well-being and are less susceptible to anxiety or depression than those chasing external validation. For the Sigma, being misunderstood is a price he's willing to pay for his integrity. It's not because he thinks he's better than others, but because he knows the danger of living for likes. It's a slippery slope to self-abandonment. That's not arrogance, it's armor. Armor forged in solitude, shaped by reflection and worn not to repel others, but to protect what's sacred within. He's aware that popularity can be purchased, but authenticity must be earned, and sometimes earned in silence. He doesn't feel the need to explain himself or seek the crowd's approval because his compass isn't pointing outward, it's pointed within. This rare independence can confuse others, even intimidate them, because it exposes just how much of the average person's identity is borrowed from the outside world. The Sigma male is a reminder that there is a deeper, quieter power in walking alone, not in bitterness, but in clarity. In a world addicted to being seen, he's focused on seeing himself clearly, and that clarity is more valuable than any number of followers, likes, or empty praise. Belief 4. You must constantly explain yourself. The world is obsessed with explanations, craving reasons, justifications, and endless dialogue to make sense of someone's choices. But the Sigma male operates by a different code. He understands that true clarity doesn't require confirmation. If he chooses to exit a conversation, leave a job, or walk away from a relationship, he does so with calm resolve, not as an act of rebellion, but as a declaration of sovereignty. He doesn't feel the need to draft emotional essays or offer long-winded speeches about why he made that decision. Why? Because he knows that often, the more you explain, the more others try to challenge, manipulate, or control your reasoning. The act of explaining becomes an invitation, an open door for people to inject their opinions, twist your truth, or try to negotiate your boundaries. Sigma males deny that entry. Silence for them is not awkward, it is powerful. It becomes the loudest message in a world addicted to noise. Psychology even backs this up. Studies show that assertive individuals who operate with emotional independence often speak less and act more. It's not arrogance, it's clarity. It's a deep understanding that those who truly understand you don't need explanations, and those who demand them often don't care about your truth. They just want control over your decision-making process. In refusing to explain, the Sigma male reclaims his autonomy. He doesn't ghost out of immaturity. He disappears because staying would compromise his peace. And while others scramble to make sense of his absence, he's already moved on to the next purpose-driven path. His silence becomes a mirror, forcing others to face their own discomfort, their own insecurities, their own need for external validation. That's the thing about Sigmas. They don't seek applause, agreement, or approval. Their compass is internal, their decisions calculated, their exit deliberate. They live by a rare law of inner authority that doesn't beg to be understood. In a world where people are constantly broadcasting their every thought, the Sigma male chooses mystery. And in doing so, he remains one of the most misunderstood and most powerful figures in modern social psychology. Belief 5. You must respond to disrespect immediately. Some think that reacting fiercely to every insult or confrontation is a sign of strength, a way to assert dominance and earn respect. But the Sigma male knows better. He understands a deeper truth. Real power lies in restraint, not reaction. While the world teaches you to respond with emotion, to bark back louder when challenged, the Sigma moves in silence. He doesn't flinch when provoked because his confidence isn't fragile. It isn't tied to public opinion or ego battles. Instead, he wields emotional control like a weapon. Studies in psychology have shown that emotional regulation, the ability to pause and choose your response, is a mark of advanced self-awareness and intelligence. And this is the Sigma's natural state. When someone disrespects him, he doesn't waste time crafting the perfect comeback or trying to win the crowd. He simply removes himself. Distance becomes his statement. In a society obsessed with confrontation and constant validation, his silence speaks louder than any shouted defense. This isn't weakness, it's strategy. The Sigma knows that attention is a currency, and he won't spend it on what doesn't serve him. He vanishes not because he's defeated, but because he's already won by refusing to play a pointless game. His detachment is unsettling to others because they can't manipulate what they can't provoke. And in that silence, the Sigma rewrites the rules of engagement. He proves that the most dangerous man in any room is not the loudest, not the angriest, but the one who doesn't need to prove a thing and still comes out on top. He's not looking for applause or revenge. His greatest revenge is elevation, moving forward, growing stronger, and letting others drown in their own chaos. The Sigma isn't reactive because he knows that reaction gives others control. Instead, he observes, calculates, and if necessary, disappears. And in that disappearance, there is power. Because while everyone else is still arguing, he's already on to greater things. That's what makes him unstoppable. Belief 6, power comes from dominating others. The alpha flexes, the beta submits, the Sigma calculates. In a world that obsesses over dominance and submission, the Sigma male breaks the pattern entirely. He's not the loudest in the room, nor is he the most agreeable, but he is often the most unsettling to those around him. Why? Because he plays a different game altogether. While alphas try to control people with force and betas seek approval through compliance, the Sigma controls only one thing: his presence. His emotional detachment is not a sign of weakness or lack of interest. It's a form of power, a conscious choice rooted in deep self-awareness. When he walks away, the silence he leaves behind can echo louder than any words shouted by an alpha. Studies in social dynamics show that people respond more intensely to unpredictability than to direct confrontation. This is why the Sigma's withdrawal often triggers more reflection and emotional response than any aggressive move. It's the psychology of absence. When something rare or mysterious is taken away, its value intensifies. The Sigma understands this on a strategic level. He doesn't burn bridges, he disappears into the fog, leaving others to question their own actions. His detachment isn't coldness, it's calibration. He knows when to lean in and, more importantly, when to step back. The calmness he carries isn't just composure, it's a warning. He's not invested in winning your approval, and that unsettles people used to validation-based power structures. This isn't to say he's emotionless. On the contrary, he feels deeply but rarely shows it, and that emotional control makes him both mysterious and magnetic. People can't quite figure him out, and in a world addicted to labels and certainty, that mystery becomes power. He's not in the crowd nor against it, he's simply beyond it. While others perform, he observes. While others argue, he calculates. While others chase attention, he disappears, only to return stronger, more refined, and more dangerous. The Sigma doesn't conquer through confrontation. He conquers through absence. And sometimes the loudest statement a man can make is his silence. Belief 7, you need to be part of a group to be safe. Herd mentality says stick together or perish. But the Sigma walks alone by choice, not exile. In a world where belonging is often equated with survival, the Sigma male defies the narrative, not out of rebellion, but out of deliberate understanding. While society teaches us to seek validation, support, and comfort in the group, the Sigma has discovered that his greatest strength is cultivated in solitude. Unlike alpha males who dominate social structures or betas who find identity through them, the Sigma steps off the path entirely. He knows that crowds often follow illusions, echoing each other's thoughts without question, like schools of fish darting in fear or tribes forming consensus without reflection. The Sigma, on the other hand, takes the slower, more dangerous route of independent thought. This doesn't mean he's antisocial or emotionally cold. On the contrary, he deeply understands human connection. He just doesn't need it to feel whole. His relationships are chosen, not required. He may build powerful alliances with others, but never becomes entangled in the emotional dependencies that come with attachment. Psychological studies show that solitude, when chosen voluntarily, increases creativity, emotional resilience, and cognitive clarity. The Sigma uses this solitude not to escape the world, but to sharpen his perspective. He becomes a master observer, watching, understanding, and strategically engaging when necessary. He doesn't isolate out of bitterness, but out of clarity. In doing so, he becomes the outlier, the variable the system can't control. His detachment is not a shield, but a strategy. And while the herd panics at the thought of being left behind, the Sigma thrives in the quiet spaces they fear. The world may call him a mystery, a lone wolf, or even an enigma, but for him, this life is not a curse, it's freedom. He walks alone, not because no one will walk with him, but because the path he chooses simply doesn't allow for crowds. Belief 8. Stay safe, avoid risk, play it smart. The Sigma male isn't reckless, but he's not ruled by comfort either. Unlike the average man who often chooses the safety of routine over the uncertainty of growth, the Sigma male willingly steps into discomfort if it brings him closer to truth. His journey isn't about playing it safe, it's about chasing something real, even if it means walking alone. He'll walk through fire if it leads to freedom, not because he's immune to fear, but because he refuses to let fear dictate his decisions. Psychologists describe this mindset as high self-direction and autonomy, traits linked to greater personal fulfillment and psychological resilience. He understands that personal evolution doesn't happen in the safety zone. It happens in solitude, in trial, and in honest confrontation with oneself. The Sigma male risks being misunderstood, judged, or even abandoned, not out of rebellion, but out of devotion to his path of self-discovery. He doesn't chase legacy with a need for applause or external validation. Instead, he builds his legacy in silence, through restraint, excellence, and calculated moves. Studies in behavioral psychology show that individuals who operate with long-term vision and impulse control are more likely to achieve higher life satisfaction and success. That's the Sigma's playground. Every action he takes is intentional, unhurried, and often unnoticed by the crowd. He doesn't need to be seen to feel valuable. He doesn't need noise to feel alive. While the world rushes to be heard, he listens. While others seek attention, he seeks mastery. His life is the performance, quiet, powerful, and unforgettable. It's a masterpiece unfolding behind closed doors. He may not dominate boardrooms with charisma or flood social feeds with curated perfection, but he influences through presence, through energy, and through the sheer weight of his authenticity. He's not trying to be different. He just is. The Sigma male isn't trying to escape the system. He simply refuses to be controlled by it. His freedom is internal, his discipline is fierce, and his silence. That's where the real power lies. While the world watches for fireworks, the Sigma becomes the storm in the distance, unpredictable, undeniable, and unforgettable. These 8 beliefs are widely accepted by society without question, almost like default settings in the human operating system. But the Sigma male doesn't operate on pre-installed software. He questions every line of code. In a world that rewards conformity and punishes deviation, the Sigma chooses autonomy over approval. While others seek validation, he seeks truth. He isn't rebellious for attention, nor is he detached for drama. He simply refuses to live by second-hand thoughts. Psychology even shows that independent thinkers often face resistance, but they're also the ones who innovate and lead revolutions quietly. The Sigma male walks the road less traveled, not because it's fashionable, but because it's honest. While the world rushes toward noise, he steps back into silence. And in doing so, he becomes magnetic without effort. Stay curious, be unseen, be unfazed, be unforgettable, not by trying to stand out, but by refusing to blend in. When most men feel threatened, they react, loudly, impulsively, and often emotionally. But when a Sigma male feels threatened, something different happens. He doesn't explode. He doesn't rush to defend his ego or prove his strength. Instead, he calculates. Like a grandmaster in a psychological chess match, the Sigma doesn't panic. He plans. His silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. Rather than meeting aggression with aggression, he retreats, not out of fear, but out of foresight. He observes the terrain, the players, and the motives. While others are caught in the moment, he's already 20 moves ahead, mapping out outcomes with surgical precision. This is not the story of a man who shouts to be heard. This is the story of a man who listens to understand. Sigma males are rooted in logic and independence. Their brain chemistry is often wired to favor introspective thinking, meaning their prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for planning, problem-solving, and emotional regulation, is highly active. In moments of confrontation, while others react from the amygdala, the fight or flight center, the Sigma taps into higher reasoning. He doesn't fear conflict, he studies it. He knows that energy spent proving oneself to doubters is energy wasted. Instead, he lets results speak, and when it gets personal, when betrayal, disrespect, or danger looms, he doesn't escalate. He evolves. He upgrades his mindset, trims unnecessary alliances, and adapts his strategy. It's why Sigmas are often underestimated. Their power doesn't announce itself, it unfolds quietly, methodically. While the world looks for dominance in volume and visibility, the Sigma's dominance lies in discipline and detachment. This isn't content for the average man. This is for the one who never bowed to social pressure, never sought validation, and never needed a crowd to move in power. It's for the strategist behind the silence, the man who, when backed into a corner, doesn't break, he builds. Welcome to Brain Boosters, where we study not how to be seen, but how to become unstoppable. Let's begin. Number 1, controlled disengagement. When the world tightens its grip, most men push back. They fight harder, speak louder, and try to control everything around them. But the Sigma male operates by a different code. He doesn't meet pressure with pressure. He dissolves the grip by loosening his own. This isn't weakness, it's what psychologists call a form of boundary setting that prioritizes mental sovereignty over social validation. The Sigma doesn't argue, doesn't beg, and doesn't explain. He simply withdraws. It's not a dramatic exit, it's a silent shift of energy. One moment he's there, the next he's not, and those who took him for granted are left in the echo of his absence. This form of controlled disengagement is rooted in deep emotional intelligence. Rather than letting toxicity infect his inner world, the Sigma male recognizes when a space, person, or situation is compromising his peace, and instead of fighting to change the environment, he changes within it. Science backs this up. Studies in neuropsychology show that emotional detachment, when done intentionally, can lower cortisol levels and preserve long-term cognitive function. In other words, detachment isn't escapism, it's protection. This quiet form of recalibration allows the Sigma to preserve his clarity and autonomy. He doesn't ghost out of immaturity, he leaves because he's already extracted the lesson. His silence isn't passive, it's powerful. In a world addicted to reaction, the Sigma chooses stillness. When chaos demands a response, he offers none. When drama seeks attention, he becomes invisible. This is the essence of his resistance, non-availability. Because once the Sigma pulls his energy back, the dynamic collapses. No more fuel for manipulation, no more participation in dysfunction. He understands that the most potent way to fight a toxic system is not to destroy it, but to starve it of attention. That's why the Sigma male doesn't yell or protest. And in that void, those who underestimated his presence begin to understand its true value. Number 2, mental reprogramming. Where others crumble under emotional weight, the Sigma rewrites his internal script. While the average person may relive emotional trauma on a loop, carrying resentment, repeating toxic cycles, and allowing pain to define them, the Sigma male takes a radically different approach. He doesn't simply endure pain, he dissects it. Like a seasoned coder debugging a complex system, he studies the source of his suffering with brutal honesty and laser focus. Instead of reacting emotionally, he analyzes patterns and behaviors, recognizing that emotional triggers are not enemies to be buried, but data points to be decoded. In neuroscience, this approach mirrors cognitive reappraisal, a psychological strategy shown to reduce negative emotional responses by reframing the meaning of a situation. The Sigma does this instinctively. He doesn't seek to be louder or more dominant in response to threats or failure. He becomes cleaner, more refined, like software that's been updated to remove bugs and optimize performance. His evolution is internal, quiet, and efficient. He doesn't let trauma mutate into bitterness. He doesn't suppress his emotions, but studies them until they lose their control over him. As a result, what breaks others only builds him. Stress and chaos become part of his calibration process. This is not emotional coldness, it's emotional intelligence at its highest level. He understands that real power lies not in pretending not to feel, but in refusing to be ruled by feeling. In a society that prizes instant reactions and loud personalities, the Sigma male's silent mastery stands out. He doesn't need validation, applause, or understanding. His transformation happens behind closed doors, in quiet moments of self-reflection and calculated reconstruction. While others are shaped by external pressure, the Sigma is sharpened by it. Threats don't mold him, they force him to upgrade. Like steel forged in fire, he emerges more resilient, more precise, and far more dangerous. Not because he retaliates, but because he refines. His software is updated not through drama, but through discipline. Pain doesn't imprison him. It programs him with new clarity. This is the Sigma's true edge, not brute strength, but emotional strategy. Not louder, just cleaner. Number 3, strategic silence. In the Sigma male's world, silence is never a sign of weakness. It's a calculated strategy. Unlike the Alpha, who commands attention, or the Beta, who seeks approval, the Sigma retreats into stillness when confronted, threatened, or tested. This is not passivity. It's a tactical shift to what could be called a low-signal, high-awareness mode. When others get loud, emotional, or reactive, the Sigma becomes quieter and more deliberate. His silence is not absence, it's analysis. He observes everything, the tone of voice, the hidden intentions, and the unspoken dynamics in the room. Neurologically, this aligns with how highly self-aware individuals activate their prefrontal cortex under pressure, using logic over impulse. In evolutionary psychology, this behavior mirrors lone wolves in the wild. Animals who don't bark when challenged, they assess, calculate, and act only when the odds are in their favor. The Sigma male operates much the same way. His silence becomes disarming. It throws off aggressors who expect either resistance or submission. Manipulators find no emotional cues to exploit. Loud personalities are met with a mirror that reflects nothing. It's unsettling, because society is used to noise, arguments, defensiveness, and over-explaining. The Sigma offers none of that. What he offers instead is presence, not performance. That presence feels powerful, precisely because it withholds energy. And the world, addicted to validation and reaction, doesn't know how to process that. The Sigma male is aware of this psychological advantage and leverages it in both personal and professional settings. Whether in a negotiation or a confrontation, he controls the tempo by controlling his signal output. He slows things down, he waits, he watches. This is not about avoidance, it's about dominance through restraint. In a world where everyone's broadcasting their opinions and emotions 24/7, the Sigma male becomes a mystery, and mystery is power. His silence isn't empty, it's loaded. Behind every quiet glance is a mental blueprint. Behind every pause is an intention. And when he finally does speak, every word lands with precision because it was chosen, not thrown. That's what makes the Sigma male so unnerving to opponents and so fascinating to observers. He doesn't play by volume, he plays by control. And in that game, silence wins. Number 4, redirection, not reaction. He doesn't waste time reacting to attacks. Instead, he redirects his focus, his time, and his energy. While most people live in a constant state of emotional reactivity, jumping from one drama to the next, the Sigma male does something radically different. He doesn't chase after every insult or defend every misunderstanding. He understands a timeless truth that many miss. Attention is currency. Whatever you give your attention to, you empower. So rather than waste time in petty arguments or emotional battles, he withdraws from the noise and realigns with purpose. He doesn't fight distractions, he replaces them with direction. Studies in cognitive psychology reveal that the human brain thrives when engaged in purpose-driven behavior, not chaos. Sigma males intuitively grasp this. While others burn out by reacting to every beep, buzz, and breaking headline, the Sigma preserves his most valuable resource, his mind. He uses it not to react, but to create. In a world where reaction is the default, he stays in creation mode. This doesn't mean he's passive or disconnected, it means he's disciplined. He knows that control isn't about dominating others, it's about mastering yourself. In the art of martial discipline like Aikido, practitioners don't block attacks head-on. They redirect the energy, turning the opponent's force into momentum for their own movement. That's the essence of the Sigma's life philosophy. Calmly, precisely, without noise, he builds, he creates, he lives with intention. Neuroscience even supports this approach. The prefrontal cortex, the brain's decision-making center, is strongest when not hijacked by emotional triggers. The Sigma male operates from that higher level of awareness. While others are slaves to reaction, he is the architect of direction. And that makes him rare. He's not avoiding the world, he's mastering his place in it. Every move is deliberate. Every silence is loaded with strategy. In a society obsessed with speed and noise, his stillness speaks volumes. It's not weakness, it's power under control, because at the end of the day, a man who can't be provoked, distracted, or manipulated is a man who can't be defeated. Number 5, energy stripping. The Sigma male is allergic to wasted energy. Every ounce matters to him. Unlike those who thrive in chaos or need constant social engagement, the Sigma operates with surgical precision. When he senses a threat, be it emotional manipulation, toxic people, or environments that drain rather than nourish, he doesn't react impulsively. He scans it silently, with a calculating mind. Like a tactician surveying a battlefield, he asks pointed questions. Is this situation worth my attention? Is this person worth access to my mental and emotional world? Most aren't. And when the answer is no, he doesn't announce it. He doesn't need drama or theatrics. He simply begins to withdraw, not out of fear, but out of respect for his time, his mind, and his peace. Emotionally, he detaches. Socially, he distances himself. Mentally, he closes the file and moves on. And when he walks away, he takes nothing with him. No guilt, no bitterness, no baggage. That's because energy is his currency, and he spends it like a minimalist investor. Scientifically, our brains consume a vast portion of our body's energy. The Sigma male, whether consciously or instinctively, protects his cognitive bandwidth like a scarce resource. Studies in psychology confirm that high self-monitoring individuals tend to conserve emotional energy by avoiding unnecessary social obligations. The Sigma is an expert at this. He's not cold-hearted, he's clear-headed. While others leak energy through endless arguments, people-pleasing, or overthinking, the Sigma is cutting cords. It's not that he doesn't care, it's that he cares too much to waste. He doesn't let external chaos dictate internal peace. His silence is not weakness, but strategy. His detachment is not apathy, but wisdom. In a world that constantly demands attention, the Sigma's refusal to be drained becomes his ultimate shield. He doesn't fight every battle, he vanishes from the ones that don't deserve him. Energy for the Sigma male is not just about stamina, it's about sovereignty. And in preserving it, he keeps something far more valuable than time: control. Number 6, emotional neutralization. Threats often come through emotional games: guilt, shame, and fear. These aren't just petty tactics, they're deeply rooted in human psychology, often used to manipulate and control. But the Sigma male, a man who exists outside traditional social hierarchies, is built differently. He doesn't fall for the bait. Where most people might react with outrage, panic, or desperate explanations, the Sigma responds with nothing. He neutralizes. His silence isn't submission, it's a calculated absence of energy. When someone tries to guilt him, he doesn't explain himself. When they attempt to shame him, he doesn't defend his identity. When fear is used to corner him, he doesn't retreat. He simply doesn't engage. This emotional discipline isn't accidental. It's the product of introspection, solitude, and self-mastery. In psychology, there's a term called emotional detachment, which, when healthy, allows individuals to maintain boundaries and think clearly under pressure. The Sigma has mastered this. He doesn't match their heat. He cools the room with indifference. This calm, almost eerie stillness is disarming. Imagine arguing with a man who won't raise his voice, won't flinch, and won't give you the satisfaction of emotional feedback. It turns their chaos into a monologue, one that echoes back to them with increasing absurdity. In a society addicted to emotional reaction, where outbursts are rewarded with attention and drama becomes currency, the Sigma male is a psychological blackout. He cuts the power. No emotion, no argument, no energy, just stillness. And in that stillness, manipulators lose their grip. They realize their games don't work here. Their arsenal becomes obsolete. The guilt has nowhere to stick. The shame dissolves in the silence. The fear rebounds like a boomerang. It's not that the Sigma doesn't feel, he simply chooses not to be ruled by feeling. That's his power. In the storm of emotional warfare, he becomes the I, calm, unmoved, untouchable. And while others may burn out in the fire of toxic engagement, the Sigma walks away cold, composed, and completely unaffected. His silence is not emptiness, it's dominance. Number 7, no signal reaction. Most men, whether they realize it or not, leak signals. These signals can be facial expressions, defensive body language, or verbal responses that reveal fear, pride, annoyance, or insecurity. In social dynamics, particularly in power struggles or manipulative environments, these subtle cues give others an emotional roadmap, a way to provoke, manipulate, or gain the upper hand. That's the average man. But the Sigma male operates on a different frequency. When conflict arises or tension fills the air, the Sigma doesn't offer a twitch of the eye, a change in tone, or a reaction to bait. He goes silent, not out of fear, but out of strategy. This is not passivity, but a calculated removal of emotional currency from the game. By giving no signal, no status update, no defensive rebuttal, no exaggerated posturing, he creates a kind of social void that others don't know how to fill. And in a world that thrives on control, that's terrifying. Human psychology is wired to respond to social cues. We read micro-expressions and tone of voice like radar systems scanning for weakness or authority. But when someone gives you nothing, no resistance, no emotion, no visible stance, you're left without a map. It's like trying to control smoke with your bare hands. That's the power of the Sigma. It's not just silence. This disarms threats because manipulation requires emotional traction. If someone's trying to provoke you but you don't react, they lose control. If they try to gauge your position and you give them nothing, they're stuck in the dark. That's unsettling for predators who rely on psychological dominance. They can't dominate what doesn't engage. This behavior is rooted in evolutionary psychology. Signals once meant survival. But in the modern world, over-signaling often leads to exploitation. The Sigma understands this instinctively. So instead of signaling status like an alpha or seeking support like a beta, he removes himself from the emotional chessboard entirely. And when there's no signal, there's nothing to decode, nothing to manipulate, nothing to control. It's the ultimate form of quiet power, a calm storm that refuses to be read and because of that, remains untouchable. Number 8, building in the dark. While others panic in the spotlight, the Sigma disappears into the shadows. But don't mistake his absence for weakness or fear. He's not hiding, he's building. This is the fundamental difference between Sigma males and the rest of the social hierarchy. While alpha males dominate the stage and beta males follow, the Sigma male chooses solitude as his forge. Psychologically, Sigmas are introverted, self-sufficient, and highly introspective individuals. They don't need validation from crowds or approval from authority. They thrive in the quiet, where distractions fade and clarity emerges. In these silent periods, the Sigma male is not idle. He's crafting his next move, mapping his strategy, upgrading his mindset, and sharpening his skills. Science backs this with studies on introverted personalities showing that solitude enhances creativity, problem-solving, and emotional regulation. These are qualities the Sigma male wields like tools. He invests in his future without the need for applause, and this long game often leads to outcomes that shock everyone. When he returns, he doesn't come back loud or boastful. He's just different. Not bitter from the world's chaos, just better. More focused, more capable, more refined. Because when the world throws conflict, distraction, or drama, the Sigma doesn't break. He doesn't react with emotional volatility or rush to prove his point. He retreats, not to escape, but to evolve. Building in silence is his power move. It's the strategy of a man who knows growth doesn't happen on stage. It happens in the shadows, behind closed doors, in the dead of night when no one is watching. And by the time the world catches on, it's already too late. He's already 10 steps ahead. The Sigma's transformation is not flashy, but it is powerful. It's the result of intentional isolation, relentless self-improvement, and a refusal to be distracted by noise. His silence isn't emptiness, it's activity. His absence isn't weakness, it's preparation. And when he emerges, he doesn't need to tell the world he's changed. The results speak for him. In a world obsessed with visibility, the Sigma male proves that real strength doesn't need to shout. It just needs time, discipline, and silence to build something the noise never could. A threat to the Sigma isn't a reason to panic. It's a signal, a whisper, not a shout. It doesn't trigger fear, but rather sparks a quiet transformation. While others might react with loud defiance, or visible defense, the Sigma male retreats, not to hide, but to sharpen. This is the nature of a man who lives outside the social hierarchy. He doesn't seek validation or approval. Instead, a threat becomes fuel, an opportunity to analyze, adapt, and strike back with precision. Psychology and behavioral studies show that individuals with high levels of self-awareness and autonomy, like the Sigma archetype, are more likely to respond to challenges with strategic introspection rather than reactive aggression. In moments of tension, the Sigma doesn't seek allies, he seeks clarity. He disappears from the noise and returns with sharpened purpose. This solitude isn't weakness, it's the forge where his next move is crafted. So if you're looking for how a Sigma handles being threatened, don't expect a scene. Expect silence, stillness, the calm before a calculated shift. Something powerful is always being rebuilt in the shadows. Stay curious, be unseen, be unfazed, and above all, be unforgettable. He doesn't hate the world, he just doesn't understand why it keeps lying to itself. The Sigma male lives in a reality where authenticity is rare and social masks are the norm. Unlike alpha males who thrive in dominance hierarchies or betas who follow the crowd, Sigmas reject both roles and forge their own path. He doesn't scream for attention because he doesn't need validation from the outside world to feel worthy. Instead, he turns inward, finding strength in solitude and clarity in silence. His refusal to march in line isn't rebellion for rebellion's sake, it's a conscious choice to avoid a system that often rewards conformity over creativity and noise over depth. While others chase popularity, titles, and shallow wins, the Sigma male questions the script. Why are people so eager to blend in when standing out reveals their truth? Why accept cultural programming that leads to burnout, fake friendships, and hollow ambition? To him, society isn't a place to perform. It's a system to observe. He studies it like a puzzle, noticing the contradictions most ignore, smiling faces hiding sadness, loud voices lacking wisdom, and busy lives empty of purpose. Where others see success in constant motion, he sees distraction. Science even backs this mindset. Introverts and independent thinkers often score higher in creative problem solving and show increased activity in brain regions linked to deep thought and self-reflection. The Sigma male simply lives in this gear more often. He doesn't chase status because peace is his prize. He doesn't speak just to fill the silence. He waits until his words matter. And he doesn't crave attention because true power in his world is found in detachment. This isn't arrogance, it's discernment. It's the quiet confidence of someone who knows the world is loud for a reason, to drown out truth. In this video, we'll explore the unique way the Sigma sees the world, not through the lens of superiority, but through a refusal to dance with illusions. Welcome to Brain Boosters, where we dive into the mind of a man who walks alone, not because he's lost, but because he knows exactly where he's going. Number 1, emotional overexposure. A Sigma male doesn't suppress emotion. He studies it, dissects it, and refines his relationship with it. While many in today's society feel compelled to broadcast every emotional wave as if it's a live event, the Sigma male takes a quieter, more deliberate route. He doesn't see the value in emotional outbursts or dramatic displays of vulnerability performed for digital applause. To him, emotional strength is not about how intensely you feel, but how intelligently you manage those feelings. In a world where overexposure is equated with authenticity, the Sigma male recognizes the flaw in this thinking. He views unfiltered expression as a form of emotional chaos, not courage. This isn't stoicism for the sake of appearance, it's emotional intelligence in action. According to psychologist Daniel Goleman, emotional regulation is one of the cornerstones of emotional intelligence, and it has been repeatedly linked to higher success rates in relationships, leadership, and overall well-being. The Sigma male embodies this principle. He doesn't lack emotion, he's simply not ruled by it. When others explode in anger or dissolve into tears for external validation, the Sigma quietly processes his experience, evaluates the meaning behind it, and allows himself to respond, not react. He isn't cold, he's calculating, not in a manipulative sense, but in a conscious one. Like a skilled archer who doesn't fire every arrow, he waits for the right moment, the right reason. Emotions are not his enemy, nor his master. They are instruments of understanding and depth. The performative vulnerability so popular in modern culture seems exhausting to him. Why should every heartbreak be narrated, every joy announced, every setback filmed? The Sigma doesn't perform his feelings, he refines them in solitude. His emotional world is intense, not in volume, but in depth. He prefers clarity over clamor and insight over impulse. While others may see this as emotional distance, it's actually emotional discipline. The Sigma male knows that true maturity isn't about emotional suppression, but emotional precision. He whispers to himself in a world that screams, and through that whisper, he hears the truth. That's his quiet superpower. He's not emotionally detached, he's emotionally deliberate. In a society that races to share every emotion in real time, the Sigma male slows down, listens inward, and speaks only when his emotions have something meaningful to say. He isn't avoiding emotion, he's mastering it, and in that mastery he finds peace. Number 2, blind loyalty to systems. Society runs on invisible scripts, silent codes of behavior that tell us what to want, who to be, and how to live. These scripts are so ingrained that most people never even realize they're following them. From childhood, we're taught to believe in a predictable formula. Go to school, get good grades, secure a job, climb the corporate ladder, buy a house, retire at 65, and then maybe enjoy what's left of life. It's a comforting narrative because it offers a roadmap, but comfort isn't always truth. Sigma males see through this illusion, not because they're rebels, but because it simply doesn't resonate with their inner compass. They aren't wired to blindly obey, they're wired to question. And when they look around and see that, according to a Gallup report, over 70% of employees are actively disengaged at work, it confirms their suspicion. This path, the so-called right way, doesn't work for everyone. A Sigma male doesn't hate structure, he just won't kneel to it unless it serves a real purpose. The 9-to-5 grind isn't inherently bad, it just feels soul-numbing when it's stripped of meaning. Sigmas value autonomy over acceptance, purpose over prestige. They can't understand why originality is often sacrificed at the altar of conformity. After all, history's greatest minds, Einstein, Da Vinci, Tesla, were not products of compliance, but of divergence. Steve Jobs dropped out of college and built Apple. Elon Musk sleeps in factories to innovate. These aren't mere anecdotes, they're testaments to a mindset that chooses impact over instruction, freedom over fear. And that's the Sigma blueprint, not to reject society, but to transcend it. To outsiders, this path looks lonely, uncertain, even dangerous. But for the Sigma, the real danger lies in spending decades playing it safe while passion and creativity atrophy. He's not impressed by corner offices or six-figure salaries if they come at the cost of his authenticity. He's not moved by applause if he had to wear a mask to earn it. Where others chase promotions, he chases purpose. Where others seek validation, he finds meaning in solitude. The Sigma doesn't just think outside the box, he lives outside of it. His life is a custom design, not a mass-produced template. While the world sticks to its scripts, he becomes the unscripted chapter, the one people remember, not because he followed the rules, but because he had the courage to write his own. Number 3, shallow power games. Sigma males don't play to win popularity contests, and that alone baffles most people. In our society, success is often measured by how many people know your name, how loudly you can sell your brand, or how smoothly you can dominate a conversation. From corporate offices to friend circles to dating scenes, many people rely on charisma, social maneuvering, or status symbols to climb the social ladder. But the Sigma male operates on an entirely different wavelength. While others are busy jockeying for attention, he quietly observes from the sidelines, decoding social dynamics like a silent strategist. He sees the cliques forming, the egos inflating, and the status games unfolding, but he's not compelled to play along. It's not that he doesn't understand the game, he just finds it pointless. He doesn't crave applause, he values authenticity. Where others seek to impress, the Sigma seeks to understand. He's not in a race to outshine others because to him, greatness doesn't need an audience. In fact, studies in psychology have shown that individuals with high emotional intelligence often speak less and observe more. Traits commonly found in Sigma males. They're self-reliant, inwardly driven, and not threatened by solitude. The Sigma male respects genuine strength, but not the kind that's shouted through a megaphone. He prefers quiet power, the kind that doesn't demand validation. While others chase influence through visibility, he builds influence through integrity, discipline, and consistency. His presence alone can shift a room's energy, not by shouting, but by simply being centered and unshakable. That's why the Sigma male often confuses people. They can't figure out how someone can have such influence without seeking it. And this quiet, almost mysterious detachment makes him compelling. To the Sigma, the loudest man in the room is usually the most insecure, compensating for something internal. He, on the other hand, would rather lead through example, not persuasion. His power lies not in the volume of his voice, but in the weight of his character. And in a world addicted to noise, a man who leads in silence stands out more than anyone, screaming for the spotlight. Number 4, forced social rituals. Why pretend to care when you don't? That single question echoes endlessly in the mind of a Sigma male. In a world that often demands politeness over honesty and social rituals over genuine connection, the Sigma male sees through the performance. He doesn't hate people, far from it, but he struggles to understand the obsession with shallow engagement. Why are meaningless office parties, forced conversations, or obligatory weekend plans considered necessary? For him, these things aren't just exhausting, they're illusions of connection. Science even backs up the emotional toll of inauthenticity. Research in psychology shows that engaging in surface acting, pretending to feel emotions you don't, leads to emotional exhaustion and burnout. Sigma males avoid this emotional trap by choosing authenticity over approval. They value time like an investor values capital. Every minute spent must yield something meaningful. Growth, insight, laughter, or depth. Anything less is a bad trade. While extroverts may thrive on quantity of interaction, Sigmas seek quality. They aren't afraid of silence. In fact, they respect it, knowing that silence often speaks more honestly than words ever could. If the conversation doesn't feed the soul or spark the mind, they'd rather not speak at all. And when they walk away from shallow connections, they don't flinch or offer long explanations, because presence without meaning is simply absence in disguise. It's not about arrogance, it's about alignment. The Sigma male moves by a compass that points inward toward personal truth. And in a world addicted to performance and approval, his refusal to fake interest is not rudeness, it's rare integrity. While others may see his detachment as cold, it's actually clarity. He sees no value in pretending to care when the connection doesn't move him, and rather than wear a social mask, he'd rather be alone, honestly, quietly, and peacefully alone. And number 5, manipulative relationships. One thing Sigma males detect almost instantly is manipulation. It's like a sixth sense, an unspoken radar that picks up on emotional traps, passive-aggressive behavior, and subtle power plays. Whether it's a clingy friend who constantly guilts them, a partner who plays mind games, or a boss who thrives on control through intimidation. The Sigma sees through it almost immediately. His mind isn't clouded by the desire for approval or the need to belong. But what puzzles him isn't the manipulation itself, it's the fact that so many people stay in these toxic dynamics even when they know it's destroying them. He watches people ignore glaring red flags, excuse abusive behavior, and romanticize emotional pain, all to avoid being alone. It's something he simply can't relate to. You see, the Sigma male is fiercely independent by nature, operating outside the traditional social dominance hierarchies where alpha and beta roles dominate. Studies in psychology often show that people with high self-agency and self-awareness, traits common in Sigmas, are far less susceptible to emotional manipulation because they value autonomy over approval. While others might interpret emotional dependence as love or loyalty, the Sigma sees it for what it is: entrapment. He understands that staying in emotionally manipulative relationships out of fear of loneliness isn't a sign of love, it's a sign of self-neglect. To a Sigma, the cost of inner peace is non-negotiable. He doesn't bargain his sanity to avoid silence. He'd rather walk alone with clarity than march with a crowd into chaos. Being alone is not his weakness, it's his reset. It gives him the mental space to see people for who they are, not who they pretend to be. And that's why Sigma males rarely tolerate manipulation. They don't play emotional chess to earn affection or status. They withdraw, detach, and disappear the moment they sense they're being pulled into something fake or controlling. They've learned that freedom is priceless, and no amount of temporary comfort is worth a long-term soul wound. While others stay tangled in the web of emotional games, hoping it'll somehow get better, the Sigma walks away without flinching, Because he knows peace isn't found in pleasing others. It's found in protecting your energy, choosing solitude over chaos, and never letting anyone write your emotional script. Number 6, worship of busyness. Hustle, grind, no sleep, repeat. It's the modern mantra of a world addicted to busyness, where burnout is worn like a badge of honor and productivity is measured in hours sacrificed. But to the Sigma male, this culture of constant motion isn't impressive, it's pure madness. He watches the chaos from a distance, not out of apathy, but out of clarity. Why would anyone celebrate exhaustion as though it's the price of greatness? Why has stillness, a moment to think, breathe, and reflect, been rebranded as laziness? The Sigma doesn't buy into the hype. He moves with purpose, not panic. His steps are calculated, his energy conserved like a precious resource, because he knows that rushing leads to ruin. Modern research backs him up. Studies from the World Health Organization have shown that overwork and chronic stress contribute to serious health risks, including heart disease, anxiety, and even premature death. In contrast, deliberate focus and mindful pacing, like that practiced by elite athletes and top-performing CEOs, yield far better long-term results. The Sigma doesn't try to do everything. He zeroes in on what truly matters. He understands the power of deep work, a concept popularized by productivity expert Cal Newport, which involves minimizing distractions and giving full attention to high-impact tasks. For the Sigma, time isn't something to kill or fill. It's sacred. He guards it fiercely, treating each hour as an investment, not a commodity. While the world brags about 16-hour days and sleepless nights, the Sigma sees through the illusion. He knows that success isn't found in doing more, but in doing better. And while others are sprinting toward burnout, trying to prove their value to a world that's never satisfied, the Sigma is building slowly, intentionally, something that will last. He doesn't need applause or recognition. His reward is in the results, measured not in likes or followers, but in impact, freedom, and peace. He chooses quality over quantity, clarity over chaos, and mastery over momentum. In a world addicted to speed, the Sigma thrives in silence. While others chase the spotlight, he carves out a legacy in the shadows. Number 7, fear of solitude. The final thing the Sigma male can't quite comprehend is why so many people fear their own company. It baffles him. He observes a world that is constantly running from itself, plugged into playlists, binging on shows, addicted to scrolling, clinging to constant company like a lifeline. People treat silence like a threat and loneliness like a disease. But for the Sigma male, silence is not empty, it's full of answers. He doesn't see solitude as something to escape. He sees it as a sacred space. Neuroscience even backs this up. Studies have shown that intentional solitude can boost creativity, enhance focus, and promote deeper emotional intelligence. In a world suffering from chronic distraction, the Sigma male's ability to be alone becomes his secret weapon. He understands that the mind needs silence the same way the body needs rest. In stillness, he sorts his thoughts, observes the world from a distance, and refines his inner compass. While others fear the void of being alone with themselves, he ventures into it willingly, almost eagerly. He doesn't just sit in the silence, he explores it, he reflects, he learns, he recalibrates. Solitude to him is not exile, it's elevation. It's where he fine-tunes his strategy, realigns with his purpose, and recharges his independence. Unlike extroverts who draw energy from social interaction, or even introverts who may prefer calm settings but still seek emotional connection, the Sigma male is in a category of his own. He thrives in solitude not because he has to, but because he chooses to. It gives him clarity in a world that thrives on confusion. It sharpens his instincts in a society that rewards herd behavior. And it reminds him that true strength is never found in a crowd. It's found in the quiet moments when no one is watching. He's not interested in fitting in, being seen, or being validated. That was never the goal. The goal was truth, precision, mastery. And for the Sigma, the only way to attain that is through deep, unfiltered solitude. So while the world keeps turning up the volume to drown out its discomfort, the Sigma male keeps tuning into his own frequency, quiet, focused, unbothered. In that space, he doesn't just find peace, he finds his edge. And that's something society may never fully understand, but he's not waiting for their approval anyway. A Sigma male doesn't move with the world, he studies it. While most people rush to fit in, adopt trends, and follow the crowd, the Sigma quietly observes from the sidelines. He's not detached because he's disinterested. He's detached because he's discerning. The world is a whirlwind of noise, social expectations, digital distractions, superficial norms. And rather than get swept away in that current, the Sigma chooses stillness. He watches, he analyzes, he learns, but he does not conform. That refusal to conform isn't born from rebellion, but from wisdom. He understands something most people don't. That clarity doesn't come from joining the noise, but from stepping away from it. He doesn't try to comprehend every twist and turn of society because he knows not everything in this world is meant to make sense to someone who sees through the illusion. Paradoxically, it's not ignorance that causes his confusion, it's awareness. Aware that the systems around him are built on contradictions, half-truths, and hidden agendas. Aware that many people are asleep to their own potential, shackled by the need for validation. This awareness makes the Sigma appear out of sync with the world, but in truth, he's simply more attuned to what lies beneath the surface. Psychology backs this up too. People who score high in traits like introversion, analytical thinking, and independence often struggle to resonate with mainstream culture, yet thrive in self-directed, purpose-driven paths. That's the Sigma in action. His confusion is not the same as being lost. It's the healthy tension of being awake in a world that wants you asleep. And when you're truly awake, you become a mirror, reflecting back a truth that others aren't ready to see. This makes the Sigma a mystery to many, a threat to some, and an inspiration to the few who recognize what he really is. Something different, something rare, something unforgettable. So stay curious, stay unseen, stay unfazed. Because when you're not one of them, you don't need their approval. You just need to keep moving with clarity, even if the rest of the world is stuck in confusion.